pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to announce that the meeting is being recorded and televised by a local cable company. And we'll begin the meeting with a moment of silence. And as we do, if you could keep in your thoughts and prayers, the family of Steve Roy passed away this past week, and also Earl Peter Aiken, a former Whitman police officer who passed away today, and Mrs. Blanchard, Beverly Blanchard, who also passed away this week. I'd like a motion for the approval of bill and payroll warrants.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to have a motion to accept correspondence in the read file.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And public forum. Now's the time for anybody to speak who is here and not on the agenda. Approval of meeting minutes, open session, April 5th, 2016.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
May 2nd, 2016.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Open session, May 10th, 2016.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? New business, act on the request of Police Chief Scott Benton to appoint Justin Butler to the position of Auxiliary Special Police Officer through June 30th, 2017.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Act on the request of Police Chief Scott Benton to appoint Mario J. Thompson to the position of Auxiliary Special Police Officer through June 30th, 2017.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Act to appoint Wayne Carroll to the Buildings, Facilities, and Capital Expenditures Committee.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Act on the request of Library Director Andrea Rounds for a line item transfer in the amount of $3,000 from line item number 227, Youth Services Librarian, to line item number 234, Buildings and Grounds.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Act on the request of Benjamin Lynham for permission to use the parking lot located at 20 Essex Street as a kickoff area for the first annual Colby McCarthy Poker Motorcycle Run on Sunday, July 10th, 2016, from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m.
So moved.
Second. Your second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Act on the request of Commander Ralph Caffarelli of the Whitman Chapter of Disabled American Veterans to conduct its annual Forget-Me-Not Drive at Stop and Shop on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, June 24th, 25th, and 26th, 2016, and Saturday and Sunday, July 16th and 17th, 2016, depending upon availability of time and space on the dates mentioned.
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Declare the following items as surplus and authorize trading them in on a new purchase. HP Design Jet 800 PS 44-inch plotter, serial number SG47F81066, purchased in 2004, located in the DPW Administration Building, and HP Design Jet T610 440-inch plotter, serial number MYN2R3CO24, purchased in 2007, located in the Building Department.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Act on the recommendation of the Council on Aging to nominate Barbara Garvey to serve as the town's representative on the Board of Directors for Old Colony Elder Services for the period July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2017.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Town Administrator to discuss regulating retail store hours. Frank?
I recently, about a week and a half ago, received a reply to an earlier email from 7-Eleven. They have taken over the Tedeschi's convenience store locations, and they are a 24/7 operation. They have requested approval to operate as a 24/7 operation in this facility. We have not regulated the hours of business except by license. In the case of Tedeschi's or 7-Eleven, there will be no license issued by the Board of Selectmen because they're not a common victular. In the past, when businesses were opening and required site approval, and that site approval included impact on residential areas, the Board of, did I say assessors? The Zoning Board of Appeals. The Board of Appeals would set business hours so as not to negatively affect the abutters. In this case, it is a business district. I have sought advice from council. Council's opinion is lacking in a firm reason to limit the hours. It would be considered restraint of trade. I will be getting a written opinion on it, but lacking any other type of authority, we really can't regulate those hours. So by virtue of opening, they have the right to operate a convenience store 24 hours a day. Once I have the information I need, I will be seeking information from other communities on licensing process and come back to the board with some type of recommendation on whether we need to establish either an ordinance or bylaw that gives some oversight view to hours of operation. It has not been a problem in the past. I can think of one instance where the Board of Appeals exceeded its authority by denying a business the right to operate 24/7, and that business chose not to locate in Whitman. So I want to take all the necessary steps to identify when, how, and where, so that we don't have these conflicts in the future. But in the interim, it is my belief and our council's opinion that there's no authority that we have to say yes or no. So I will tell them to proceed on the basis of operating standards.
Anyone have any thoughts?
Yeah, I have two questions, Frank. If they have a license to sell alcohol, that means that they have to cover that?
They don't
Lock
have
it?
a license to sell alcohol, and they would have to come to us for that, and that would give us the authority to regulate the business.
You're talking about the one that's where? The store that was looking for it is the one
Right
at
on the
14?
corner of Park Ave and
Oh, okay.
Washington Street.
Oh, they don't sell alcohol.
They do not sell
And
alcohol.
what about having just one employee working in the 24 hours? Is it
I don't think it's our authority to tell them how many people they need to have working in the store. I really think that goes beyond our regulatory right.
kind of dangerous?
You'll be back to us, though.
Yes.
I do have one question. When CVS first was built in Whitman, wasn't there something about that they wanted to be open 24 hours?
Yes, and the Board of Appeals said no.
Because of the,
And that is the one you
Now,
had
in the
spoken
case of CVS, they directly abutted Pine Haven Drive.
Yeah.
And the residents of Pine Haven Drive had some issues. When Stop and Shop opened, we had a butter who actually lived in Halifax but owned a house on School Street. And to say she was difficult at the hearings would be extraordinarily generous. Despite all of that, they were given permission to open 24 hours because in the opinion of the Board of Appeals, it did not significantly affect the residents on that street. They did all of the demarcation and sound attenuation they needed to. So we've had instances, I think the call on the location at where the Johnny's Supermarket was and Peapod is now was probably exceeded the authority of the Board of Appeals. But we're going to identify that and make sure that we're doing things the right way.
Set the June meeting schedule, then the suggestion is June 7th and June 21st. Okay. Old business. Apparently, when we reorganized 2 weeks ago, we did so in an untimely fashion because the election hadn't taken place yet. Even though we didn't have any opposition to Scott, to Scott and to Brian. Congratulations, both of you.
Thank you.
There were 22 write-in votes, so I'd be careful next time.
There was a lot of blanks.
But what we need to do tonight, because we were premature, what we'd like to do tonight is to reaffirm that reorganization vote if you wanted to. Someone like to make a motion.
So I'll make a motion to reaffirm it.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you very much for voting us in again. Round the board, Frank.
Yes. One of the things that the assessor has to do now that we've completed town meeting is set the tax rate. And in the past, we have had instances where the cost of town operations has exceeded to 2.5% or greater. And the impact of that increase was felt predominantly in the third and fourth quarters, because the process the assessor used to set the first two tax bills, which by law are estimated bills, is to simply take last year's bill divided by 4. And that became the new bill for the first 2 quarters. In the third quarter, as required by law, the tax rate was set, and the third quarter or legal bill was then established by taking what appropriations had been made and what we needed to raise in the next 2 bills to make up for the money required to run for the year. I gave you an example because last year there was a taxpayer who was very vocal about the impact of the technology purchase that we authorized on a one-time capital expenditure. And in his case, his tax bill went up $445, but that entire increase was absorbed in the third and fourth quarters. Because although we knew the bill was there, we didn't average it out. I spoke with the assessor a couple of weeks ago and asked about this, and her response was essentially, we've done it this way because we've always done it this way. There's an IGR released, a guideline released by the Department of Revenue that addresses that issue. And it notes that communities have the authority to include the 2.5% lift we do each year in establishing the recap sheet to set the amount of money we can raise by taxes. In many years, we don't go to the levy limit, and this year we did. And what it will impact people on mostly is the capital expenditures that were voted at town meeting. So I am suggesting that now and in the future, we ask the assessor to use the plus 2.5 method so that people don't get a false sense of obligation in the first 2 quarters and then get hit with larger bills that would have been better mitigated had we averaged it out.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Is there any downside to doing it this way? Or, I mean, what is?
There might be somebody who says, gee, I'd rather pay for it in the last 2 quarters. But I think for the average taxpayer, this is a more meaningful way to set the rate, particularly if their taxes are escrowed, because what happens is they get their first 2 bills, and they're regular size. Then they get 2 large bills. They send the bills into their escrow company, and the escrow company treats that as an annual bill.
Yep.
So they take that, multiply it by 4, and they wind up over escrowing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Particularly when we have large appropriations. And because this year we ended up, I want to say 16,000. We ended up $16,719 from the levy limit. Seems appropriate that we recognize that in doing the quarterly bills. The difference when I calculated that one example household between our estimated bill and his actual bill was $30 over the year. So I think it makes sense, and I'm asking that the board make that recommendation to the assessors.
Anyone else? All those in favor?
I think it's a good idea. Aye.
Good idea. Thank you, Frank. Good work.
Very good idea.
And other than reminding everyone that we have a holiday weekend coming up and some local celebrations, I'm done.
Okay. Scott?
Just wanna say everybody have a safe and happy holiday weekend.
Lisa?
Same thing, have a happy holiday, safe.
Yeah, and again, Monday, Memorial Day, anyone that's coming to the parade will be marching. I'd like to see a lot of flags, please. I enjoy that. I'll be carrying mine. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone who came out on Election Day to a very important vote.
Oh, you as a selectman?
Not me. I am humbled by you voting me back, and I am thankful for your trust. One thing that kind of jumped out at me was the fact that while we had 20% turnout, which was for a town election, very good. 1 in 5 coming out to vote on an override that was so important is a little troublesome. So I would like to see if there would be a way that down the line that sometime we could push to get more participation, whether it be extra signage, mailings, something to get more people out. Well, this was a good snapshot of that this town is very divided on that subject. I think the more people we get out to cast the ballot would give us a much better idea where to go. But I do thank everyone for voting. I thank everyone who ran and did not win. Thanks for the participation. And hopefully we'll see better days.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to thank a couple of people tonight. I'd like to thank the fire department. I received a phone call yesterday morning from the fire chief, early yesterday morning, that apparently my 93-year-old aunt was in the emergency room of South Shore Hospital asking for me to be called, and they didn't know my she didn't have my number. They didn't know, or she couldn't remember it. They didn't know my number. But one of our firemen, Matt Bush, happened to be there on an ambulance run, and he overheard the conversation in the emergency room. Called the chief. Chief called me, and I was able to call the hospital and get on board with what was going on. She's fine. She's back home. She's back home now. But it was just Matt could easily have overheard something and then let it slide. But he didn't. He took an extra step, and I appreciate it. My aunt appreciates it, and she now knows that the whole town of Whitman Fire Department was interested in her being okay in the emergency room, and that's really important. That's really important. That was really important to Muriel Gilligan. Let me tell you, Muriel Gilligan, who, by the way, whose uncle was the fire chief in Whitman in the 1920s.
Gilligan, I thought you were Polish.
No, I'm half Irish.
She lived on Gilligan's
But
Island?
that's a whole other story. That's a whole other story. His name was Bert Dyer. He lived on the corner of Dyer Avenue and South Avenue. I can remember vaguely when I was a child going to my great aunt and uncle's house. But she was pleased that the Whitman Fire Department is still taking care of the Gilligans.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was nice. And I'd also like to thank a very nice lady that I met. I don't know her name. I met her at Stop and Shop the other day, and she had some nice things to say about the selectmen and the selectmen's meetings. And except she did say that she would appreciate it if I could stop clicking my pen when I was up here.
Microphone fits in it.
One of those things I don't realize I do, but if you'll notice, I have not clicked my pen tonight. I told my wife when I told Carol before I was coming in here this evening that, about the pen clicking. She says, yeah, and you also jingle your keys when you're at a podium. That's something I don't know either, but apparently,
Well, that's
I'm
it,
gonna
leave
have
your
to
keys
keep.
on the desk.
Yes, gotta watch out for these little ticks. But I want to thank the fire department and this nameless woman for a couple of nice personal things last week. And Brian's right, it was an important election. 20% is okay. Frank had actually asked early in the middle of the week if we should put out as an emergency notice that we were having an election. And I suggested to him that it seemed to me that people knew that there was an election. There was all kinds of
Yeah.
publicity about it. And I wanted to reserve the emergency notices for emergencies.
Yep.
Plus Frank and I put signs around town.
However,
We put signs
yeah,
around town.
if you've been looking at Facebook lately, and I haven't looked at Facebook much at all until recently. I started reading Whitman Pride, and it's my head's about to explode. From what I see in Whitman Pride, I see a town that's severely divided, and neither side has many complimentary things to say about the other, and that's something that we're going to have to work on going forward. It's just hopefully we can get through all of this. But thanks for that suggestion. I just at the time last week I thought we had gotten enough out.
Yeah.
That's it. We need to go into executive session in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Exception 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And Exception 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the public body. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second, yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we'll be coming back into open session only to adjourn.